You ever wake up to a Montana winter and realize your fate's in the hands of the one person in your neighborhood you trust the least? Yeah, that's how this all started, with a blizzard on the horizon and a neighborhood run by folks who'd rather buy holiday banners than salt for the roads. I'm not kidding, the kind of storm where cattle huddle tight and grown men remember their granddad's warnings about bone cracker cold. Local news called it historic Arctic blast, all that drama. Didn't scare me. I've lived through worse, stationed in Alaska pulling duty on frozen runways. But you know what did give me pause? Knowing that once again my so-called tight-knit HOA would blow it. Like always. See, we had 36 homes, one winding road, and the same old song every winter. HOA scrambling last minute for a plow, money poured into flower beds and clubhouse trim instead of prepping for disaster. That's why the year before, I'd picked up an old Ford F-350 full plow kit straight from a retired county guy. Parked it in my garage, tuned it up, and when the hired help didn't show, I just started plowing myself. No one asked. I didn't charge. Just figured if you see families stuck behind snowbanks, you do something about it. Folks thanked me. Even Karen, that's the HOA president, hair like a helmet, lipstick you could see through a snowstorm, always strutting in her maroon jacket with the HOA logo stitched on the chest. She called me the neighborhood hero. Sent me a thank you card, believe it or not. But all that goodwill melted fast come spring. By December, with another monster storm bearing down, Karen wasn't waving anymore. She was showing up with compliance officers and weird questions at meetings. Is your plow insured for community use? Do you store fuel on site? Are you licensed as a contractor? I saw where it was headed. They didn't like someone doing their job unsanctioned, not on their payroll, not under their thumb. So I kept my head down and got ready for the storm. Changed the oil, checked the chains, loaded the bed with sandbags. My old golden retriever Scout watched the whole thing, tail thumping on the garage floor, loving the smell of winter. The night before the snow hit, I was double-checking everything, and that's when I spotted Karen, arms crossed, two men flanking her at the edge of my driveway. One was their compliance officer. What a joke, the other a stranger. Evening, she said, all fake cordial, breath-puffing white. We wanted to talk about your truck. Turns out storing it in my garage violated some bylaw, and because it wasn't approved emergency equipment, they wanted me to surrender it. I laughed. Surrender my plow to the HOA? Yeah, that was their idea of community risk mitigation. Paperwork was nonsense, no judge's signature, just Karen's name. She claimed it wasn't personal. Said if I disagreed, I could argue it at next month's board meeting, knowing the blizzard was 24 hours away. I didn't make a scene, just folded the notice, went back inside, but that night couldn't sleep. At 2 a.m., Scout growled, and when I looked out, there was a tow truck in my driveway garage, wide open, my plow getting winched away. Not a thing I could do. Karen wasn't there, just her two muscle-bound stooges. They handed me the same notice, said call the HOA for more info. 4 hours later, the storm hit. By sunrise, 3 feet of hard-packed snow blanketed every inch of road. The only snowplow for 10 miles was gone, courtesy of our own HOA. People tried to drive out, gave up halfway. Cars were abandoned, hazard lights blinking till the batteries died. I stood in my driveway with Scout coffee going cold in my hand, watching folks peeking out their garages, realizing they were trapped. No way in, no way out. I got a voicemail from Karen, sugary sweet, letting me know my truck was safe, not to operate any unauthorized equipment. I played it twice just to catch every smug syllable. My neighbor Martha, bundled like a burrito, trudged through waist-high drifts. They took it, didn't they? She asked, glancing at my empty garage. She had insulin that needed to stay cold. Her husband stuck at the fire station, and the HOA's contractor was a no-show. I offered up my outdoor freezer for her meds. Fear was setting in. People don't get how fast a snowstorm turns serious. By noon, the online message board was blowing up. Desperate residents, no updates, just Karen's pinned post about unforeseen contractor delays and how we should remain indoors. No mention of the plow she stole, of course. City wouldn't help private HOA roads, not our jurisdiction. I checked my garage cam footage, caught every second of them breaking in, taking my plow, unlocking my garage with what looked like a copied key. Saved it to 3 locations, sent it to my cousin Andrew, a lawyer who's tangled with HOAs before. By day, 2 things got dangerous. I dug out a neighbor's dog stuck in a snowbank, checked on the elderly down the street. Their generator was almost out. I let them borrow mine. Karen showed up later that day in her fancy SUV, clipboard in hand, trying to see how I was doing. I shot back, "You sure you want to be seen talking to me?" Might violate some HOA snow equipment protocol. She wanted me to operate my plow under HOA supervision, sign a liability waiver, of course. I told her, the only thing I'm signing is the police report. She didn't like that. Ambulances couldn't get in. Karen Street, usually the most perfect block in the neighborhood, was buried under 4-foot drifts. By the 3rd day, people were angry, silent, hungry. I wrapped up in my granddad's old coat, sat on my porch with Scout, and let the cold burn away my patience. They thought they could outlast me. But winter's my blood. I grew up shoveling till my hands bled. I pulled out my old emergency response binder, scanned Snowplow protocols, mapped every route and loophole the HOA had ignored. Turns out their bylaw violation was fake. It only covered leased commercial gear, not privately owned trucks like mine. I called Andrew, told him everything. He looped in the sheriff's office and code enforcement, sent them all my evidence. That night, Deputy Colson showed up. Thick boots, file folder, no small talk. That notice they used, fraudulent. That's unauthorized entry, vehicle seizure, misuse of association power. They tracked down my plow hidden in a storage yard 3 miles out, rented under the HOA's name. The sheriff ordered its return. Karen called me furious, warning me I'd regret making this a circus. I told her she'd regret trying to rule people instead of serving them. Got my truck back, little banged up salt bags missing, but she still ran. Pulled it out slow. Scout, riding shotgun, drove through those iced over streets like a man returning from war. Folks started waving, Martha and her boy George and Eileen with their generator. I plowed every road except Karen's. Left her street last, a little reminder. Next morning, Karen knocked on my window, face pale, hands shaking. "Please, we need your help. The Johnson's baby can't breathe. Ambulance is stuck. I told her I'll clear the road. But you resign right here, right now. Post it on every mailbox. Make it public." She hesitated but agreed. I cleared the roads, left her house buried in snow. Next day, her resignation was all over the HOA portal. The comment section exploded applause demands for audits, neighbors shoveling not just their own drives, but each other's. But you know how these folks work. Karen's crew tried to slip her back in as temporary advisor. She was still pulling strings, playing dirty. And wouldn't you know it, another storm rolled in even worse. This time I went quiet. No more heroics, no plowing, just silence. Let the ice do the talking. People noticed. Kids slipped cars. Spun out, no help from the so-called contractor. Turns out they didn't even exist, just a fake vendor to cover Karen's tracks. Behind closed doors, I was building a case, mapping every violation, every fake invoice, every threat. And then Corey, a neighbor I barely knew, showed up in my garage with a folder thick as a phone book, 42 grand in irregularities, maybe fraud. Andrew, my lawyer cousin, said, "This isn't HOA politics. This is criminal. We sent everything to the DA, code enforcement, the paper." The silence from Karen and her board was louder than a siren. 5th day. Karen cornered me in the driveway. No clipboard, no entourage, just a mess. "You think you control this neighborhood now," she spat. "No, but I'm not afraid of you," I said, turning my back. Next morning, plow was back in action, neighbors cheering, HOA quiet. Then a break, Deputy Colson called, told me to meet him at a storage facility. There, under a tarp, we found a brand new HOA-plated snowplow, never used, just a decoy. A paper plow bought with community funds to fool the books. Along with it, a folder full of whistleblower letters, Fake invoices, threats, even evidence of vote rigging. Coulson filed charges, DA started digging. I emailed everything to the whole neighborhood, the receipts, the lies, the truth in full color. Town hall packed out that Sunday. I stood at the podium, laid it all out. Fake vendors, stolen money, criminal acts. Diane Karen's biggest supporter stood up, admitted she'd been wrong, called for the board's suspension. My cousin walked in, legal petition in hand. New interim board, full audit, my name cleared. Karen banned for life from HOA leadership. Days later, Karen disappeared, house empty Lexus, under a blue tarp. No more smug walks. But it wasn't about revenge. We rebuilt. New elections, real ones, new bylaws. Trust the real kind started growing again. Scouts still barked at cars, neighbors still stopped by, and one kid handed me a hand-drawn map, Jack's winter safety team. I signed my name, handed the pencil back. So what's justice? Sometimes it's a court case. Sometimes it's a neighbor showing up with hot cider or a note that says, "You were right." Sometimes it's just standing together, breaking the ice with truth and action, so no one ever gets left out in the cold again. Now let me ask you, what would you have done? You ever fought for your neighborhood? Tell me in the comments. And if you believe in real justice, stick around. We're just getting started.